Chair of the Timberline Regional School Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during the meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting using Zoom or telephonically. Instructions have also been provided on the website of the board at timberlane.net/Zoom TRSB. If anybody has a problem, please call 382-6541, extension 399. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there's anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Kat, can you take the roll call?
Kelly Booz.
Hi, I'm present and there's no one else in the home with me.
Brian Boyle.
I am present. I am all in the room, and there are other family members in the household.
Kim Farah.
I'm present. I'm alone in the household.
Stephen Finnegan. Not currently here.
Not yet.
There he
Here
is.
he is. Here he is.
Mr. Finnegan.
I'm sorry, my computer froze in between meetings.
Oh. Just looking for you to state whether you're here or not, and if there's anyone in the house.
I am here, and there are people in the house, but not in the room.
Amy Gentile.
Here, alone in the room, others are present in the home.
Barbara Kishka.
Present, alone in the home.
Sheila Lowe's.
I am here and alone in the home.
Sean O'Neill.
I am present, alone in the room, and there are other members of the household here.
Kristen Savage.
Present, alone in the room, but other members of the household are within the house.
Sorry, we lost Jen Silva, so I'm used to having one more person. Okay. All right, moving on to the minutes. There are 3 sets of minutes here. Hang on one second. There's the reorg meeting, the business, and the non-public meeting minutes. So hang on, we do not have the non-public ones here, do we? Let's approve in one fell swoop the reorg meeting and the regular meeting on 3/18.
I'll make that motion.
Sean makes a motion.
A second.
I get Stephen as second. There any discussion on those minutes? Okay, Kat, could you take a roll call vote on those?
Ms. Bose.
Yes.
Mr. Boyle.
Yes.
Dr. Farah.
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan.
Yes.
Ms. Gentile.
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka.
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's.
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill.
Yes, great job on the minutes, Kat. You do a good job on them.
Thank you. Mrs. Savage.
Yes.
Thank you. We do not have non-public minutes in here. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is.
You missed the pledge there, Madam.
Yes, I did. I see that now. Thank you, Mr. Boyle. You can lead the pledge.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to
Allegiance to the flag
Flag.
the United States
of
of
the
America,
States of America,
to the republic
and
To the republic.
which
which
stands
stands
one nation,
one nation,
under
under
God,
Under
God,
God,
visible,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty,
with
and
liberty
justice.
and justice for all. Sorry about that. I was looking at different minutes here. Okay, great. Kaylee? Hi.
So for our report this week from the high school, we have, as the school has begun to reopen, more and more students have had more opportunities to get involved, which is absolutely great for the students. as they would have over the typical school year. Right now, the Student Council is working on their Egg My House fundraiser, as well as planning a Spirit Week for the student body. The council has been working closely with administration, as well as the senior executive committee to preserve a number of senior events, as well as iron out the details of prom. Project Hope has been preparing for the Carrie Fashion Show fundraiser that was postponed to April 11th at 4 p.m. And other organizations such as National Honor Society, Key Club, and Business Honor Society have been looking for safe ways to fundraise and hold some events. The Timberland Players are currently working on their first in-person performance to be held in late April, as well as holding auditions for a musical to be formed in May. The band and orchestra are similarly working towards the potential of performances this spring, and the chorus just recorded their first performance of the year with a Hebrew piece that will soon be made available to the public. Spring athletes have begun tryouts for the newly arrived spring sports season and are preparing for competition in the upcoming weeks. COVID restrictions are being heavily enforced in regards to athletics. Temperature checks for athletes are required, and athletes are indeed practicing wearing masks. For the middle school, they just started their trimester 3. They've had far more kids back in the building over the past couple weeks, and the safety and well-being is at their #1 priority. The middle school is also in the midst of keeping clubs and after-school activities available to all students. Spring sports and late buses recently took effect, and a Spirit Week is being planned for the middle school, with the middle school student government in active communication with the administration. At Atkinson Academy, the kindness pledge is being recited every morning. Students and teachers are also preparing for a 100th day of school readathon, with proceeds going towards Children's Hospital at Dartmouth. $4,206 was raised in support of this cause, and with the month of March being Music in Our Schools Month at the Academy, students have been participating in various activities to celebrate. The school has also been supporting the Atkinson Lions Club, donating to their spring food drive. And for the return of in-person school 5 days a week, a Kona ice truck was paid for by the Atkinson PTA. And the staff of Atkinson Academy would like to thank the Atkinson PTA for their recent efforts. TLC at Sandown Central would like to report that recently they welcomed Steve Blunt and Mary Kelly virtually to tell stories and teach through the arts. The two put an emphasis on kindness and even created a song for it that the students are using daily. The pre-K class is learning through their fairy tale unit with an emphasis on math, literacy, science, and social studies. And the school will host a socially distanced ball in the spring in support of this unit. Sandown North welcomed back 19 more remote learning students to in-person learning for the start of the 3rd trimester on March 22nd. The students and staff had adapted well and continued to do a great job with social distancing, hand sanitizing, and wearing masks. Report cards were released on Monday for trimester 2. During the month of March, the school participated in Read Across America activities, and there was an activity for each school day outside for every day of the month. Mrs. Ross, the school librarian, set up a display outside the library, and students enjoyed trivia Thursdays, Thursday estimation station, Cat in the Hat Day, and other engaging activities. One of the highlights of the month was the outside story walk, in which Mrs. Ross, their librarian, laminated signs of pages of a book and placed them outside all along the building. Students took walks outside to read these stories during mask breaks, and families were able to enjoy it over the weekend. The staff is hoping to make this a permanent thing for families to enjoy. And the Sandown North would also like to provide a huge thank you to their custodians, Zig Pasco, Paul Lancet, and Joshua Worthen for keeping the building clean and safe, and would like to thank them for helping the staff configure and reconfigure classrooms, and for their flexibility accommodating multiple lunch and snack spaces throughout the building each day. And just wants to thank them for their efforts and how they're always willing to help so cheerfully.
Thank you. Moving on, we do not have any delegates and individuals for this evening that I am aware of. Dean, no? Okay, didn't know if there were any last minute. So moving on to current business. In your packet, you have the update on the school reopening. And sorry, I'm just 2 different mouses going here. For those listening, everybody has returned 5 days a week as of March 22nd. At the high school, about 77% of students are in, and at the middle school, about 71%, with the remainder of students being remote. We are using new guidelines, still requiring masks. Students may be seated at 3 feet social distancing and maintain 6 feet distance when their masks are off. And they are still working on new attendance codes for students who are remote fully to verify that they're actually there. And that is it. And
Do
there
we have the
teachers-
camera requirement for people that are remote students to be turned on?
I don't know, Mr. Pedersen, is there a requirement for remote students to have cameras on?
At this time, there's not a requirement, no. It's strongly encouraged, but it is not required.
So what do we do to verify that students are actually, attending these things? I don't know if you know about the Fall River, I believe it was down in Mass. There was a, big issue that happened down there. And I see a lot of that stuff and just seeing some pitfalls in that kind of operation, and just want to make sure that we don't have any kind of the same situations that can, happen here. Of course, we would never want that to happen, period. But, as we know, some things do happen that are out of our control, and we want to prevent that. And how would we go about preventing that?
So I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with what you're referring to as the Fall River.
Yeah, I believe that there was somebody had mentioned it to me, and it's just with the students, parents, student was had passed. There was a lot of speculation on a lot of things, but the parent was actually logging into the system for their student, and it took a long time for it to be figured out. And the student had perished several times earlier. So I just think, I know a lot of parents have actually talked to me about with the cameras and stuff and the verification aspect of it. I think it's something that we should think about requiring for our students.
I will say that requiring students to have cameras can be an equity issue because it requires a high-speed internet connection and like the most up-to-date technology, which some of our students may not have.
I do understand that, but we can also, you don't have to have it on for the entire time duration, but at least a wellness check. It's hard to do a wellness check with students when you never see them physically.
If I could interject,
Go ahead.
Mr. Neal, we've had significant conversations about this. Most of it, I would say, back in September, October. Mr. Peterson, Sandy Allaire, about how to do this. A lot of conversation came around students who may be uncomfortable having their camera on in the house due to other things that are there. Somebody else want to pick up on those conversations because you were more involved?
Well, I'll just, as a parent, can I just simply say, Sean, that I know many of the teachers, they do breakout rooms with the kids or they talk to the kids. They're checking in on them. They do questions of the day to ask kids certain things that, I just checking in as much as they can, even though they might not see their faces. They are having conversations with them and talking to them. When I am home and the kids were home, I often can hear them having their conversations directly with the teacher. So they do ask for a lot of involvement, and they call on kids routinely to try to get them to speak up. Just to know that
That's
they're
very
still-
good.
So.
Okay, any other questions? One other thing on this part of the agenda. The first vaccination clinic was on March 26th, and there were 360 people that were vaccinated. We did have assistance from the Plastow Health Officer, the Regional Public Health Network, Plastow Fire and Rescue, the Timberlane School District Health Office, and obviously the staff. And so anybody who helped out, we thank you. And there'll be a second vaccine date. Do you have the date scheduled?
Yeah, so the date is going to be April 23rd. That's already scheduled with the state. As soon as they learned that it was the 2-dose variety, the Moderna variety, they already scheduled that date for us. That is the Friday before April break. They are going to bring in that same team, or at least, people, that same group, or people associated with those groups to do that second dose of vaccine. We're going to work on scheduling those people. They can, everyone who got a vaccine is guaranteed to now get a vaccine in that second dose. We're going to send out fairly soon a sign up so people can make appointments for that day as well.
Do we know of that 360, what percentage of the people offered the vaccine that was?
Off the top of my head, I do not know that math.
Okay.
Okay, Sheila, then Barbara.
How many employees do we have?
I
In
believe,
Timberlane?
well, including CAF workers,
Yeah,
the bus
all our
drivers.
employees.
Okay, but before we go down here, because I think Mr. Pedersen, you've already I know where both these questions are going. For next time, Mr. Pedersen, can you get us a list of the total number of employees that were eligible for the vaccine and how many actually got it? That's what we're looking for. And I don't think do you know that off the top of your head?
I do not know that.
Yeah, okay, so it's no problem. For the next meeting, I think it's good information to have, just so we
Well,
know.
I just get confused on how many employees we have because I think the numbers that we used to get included Hampstead, so I'm not quite sure what we have anymore.
Right, so if you could, I think you know what we're looking for. No, perfect. No, it's a good question. Barbara?
So how long did it take to get through vaccinating 360 people? How many hours?
Well, if we condense them all, it can be done in 5 hours. Because they can run through, what they're telling me is they can run through 6 vaccines every 5 minutes. And so it was spread out a little bit longer because we thought we were going to have more, the original when we designed it and built it.
Right.
But in the second go round, I think we've got it. We're going to have it scheduled for 5 hours.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'm just really happy that we were able to make it available. I think that was awesome.
Okay, great, thank you. Is there any action that we need on this item? Because I see it's on the agenda as an information action. Do you guys need any action?
Do we need to declare the no school day on April 23rd?
Yeah, do we need to approve the calendar? Because that was going to go to the union and then come back to us, I thought.
Anybody? Kat, could you please put that as an action item? Can we make sure that we'll have a meeting before that date, that we have the new calendar to approve? And that the union's been consulted beforehand. Sandy?
Yeah, Dr. Fair, I just wanted to share, we did consult with the union following the most recent board meeting. I believe that the vote at your last board meeting, I'd have to go back to the action items that came out of that, but I believe that your vote was to approve both days in the event that we needed that second vaccination day, but we'd have to go back to that actual motion to read it. But I think we are all set, and we did consult with the union and have an agreement with them based on what was presented at the last meeting.
Okay, I agree with Sandy on that. I just didn't know if we actually had to now that the union has voted on, if we have to now vote to approve the calendar itself.
Yeah,
So-
just so as a follow-up, the union did not vote because we had a common agreement with them that we did not believe involved a change to the CBA. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thanks.
So can we get that out to the parents as soon as possible? To let them know that will be a day off on top of the school vacation? Just so that we don't hear last minute and didn't know and.
I think it has
Yes,
gone
Sheila,
out.
I believe that, sorry, Krista, I believe that's already gone out, but we can verify. I believe that has
I
already
would,
gone out.
if
Yeah.
it could be sent out one more time.
You bet.
That
Yep,
would be
absolutely.
fantastic because it gets lost in the shuffle somehow.
And I agree with Sheila on that one. It has gone out, Sandy, to the parents. It definitely has at least once, but I think now confirming it one more time, probably a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Moving on, in your packet, you'll see an HVAC update. Again, this shows this informational action. We have already opened a purchase order for $50,000 for Train to begin work on the next phase of the project. I don't think Mark is here tonight, but I don't think we have any details. And we are reworking the job description for the director of plant operations position. And so Mark Fournier, Nancy Louiselle, and Dr. Cochran are working on that. Dr. Cochran, go ahead.
Yeah, the original Crane RFP response, Crane has provided the written recommendations for the equipment that should be replaced based on the initial assessment evaluation. And they will have that to us by tomorrow. The RFQ on the HVAC air handling equipment, the repair work, the purchase order of $50,000 has been issued to allow Crane to begin the next phase of the work. And that work will begin the week of April 5th.
Right, so at the next meeting, Kat, could you take this as an action item? I'd like to see the list from Train on the initial assessment and evaluation so we can move forward with any capital monies that we can put towards new equipment. Okay, anything else on HVAC?
Nope, that's it.
All right, great. Moving on, the next thing is the suicide prevention plan. Board members, this is in your packet. This is a confidential document, but we do need to take action on approving this. If there's going to be discussion on it, it would need to obviously be in a non-public session. So I'm looking for an approval of the suicide prevention plan by the board.
I move that we approve the suicide policy as documented. I thought it was thorough and well
Okay.
thought.
Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah, Kelly seconds. Any discussion required? Okay, Kat, could you take a roll call, please?
Rose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage,
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the athletic training contract. Mr. Fantasia has a written summary, but it looks like you want to go out to bid on this contract. Do board members have any questions on this for Mr. Fantasia?
Yeah, I guess I do.
Go ahead, Sheila.
Is Access not interested, or has our contract ended with them? Mr.
Good evening,
Fantasia.
everyone. Access is interested. The contract has ended. It's a yearly contract. I've met with Mr. Dowd and Dr. Cochran. We do have other companies interested, so we thought we would open the process and see where we go.
Okay, and when do you expect to have, when would that RFP be over and looked at?
I believe Mr. Dowd already has the RFP. Jeff, I don't want to.
The deadline is May 1st, Jill. It's in the packet.
Okay,
May 1st.
thank you. So you would be back the second meeting in May, Mr. Fantasia, to look for an approval?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay, any other questions on that? Thank you, Mr. Fantasia. Moving on to the early childhood education plan. Board members, in your packet, you have a plan on early childhood education, and I'll let Mrs. Canota speak to this.
Thank you. Good evening. So in your packet, there is a short executive summary. The document is essentially put into two parts, something for next year and something for the year after. The second part is informational in nature. It is simply to let you know that we plan to use the full next school year to really analyze our preschool and our pre-K programs, both for hours that we service students, also connected to the strategic plan action item of researching fully funded full day kindergarten. So those two are combined. But the first part is a proposal for next year, which I'm looking for an action on tonight. That is simply to move our 3s and our 4s to a consistent schedule where all the programs run Tuesday through Friday. There's 3 reasons for this. One is that as our neighborhood schools, Atkinson, Danville, and Pollard fill up because we only have one section of pre-K, those parents who don't make the lottery are offered Sandown Central, but often those programs are running on different days and different schedules. And so that's difficult sometimes for our families to accept that program instead. So we do lose families to that. The second is that it will allow us to have a more flexible full day of meetings at Sandown Central, where we can meet parent schedules for any meetings that we schedule in that day, and they're not locked into the AM or the PM session. But mostly it's for consistency purposes to make sure. This year we had Wednesdays as the meeting day because of our deep cleaning day, but that midweek break was really inconsistent for kids. So we're looking to move it back to an end of week day, and Mondays are often holidays. So we would like to move all programs Tuesday through Friday.
Questions on that? So you're looking for a motion. Oh, go ahead, Kelly.
Just a quick question. On the weeks that there are Monday holidays, are you looking to replace that meeting with a different day, or are you just going to skip those weeks? Okay.
Sheila?
So am I understanding this correctly? All preschools in all the schools, including TLC, will now be Tuesday through Friday.
Correct.
Everybody will be the same. Okay. Now, when you say, you're going to have to help me out here a little bit, because I'm old school. You know, when we had to meet with the teacher, we went after school as a parent. It didn't matter which, you know, school I was in, whether it was the elementary, the middle school, or the high school. It was always after school. So I guess I'm trying to figure out what meeting days, why are we having them during the day? And are those also your teaching meeting days? So I'm very
Sure. It's a very good question, Sheila. Thank you for asking. So our preschool and pre-kindergarten teachers, our pre-K teachers, are dual certified. So they're both regular ed and special ed. And so we keep, or I should say, the program in Timberlane has always been a 4-day program for the 4-year-olds and 2 half-day sessions for the 3-year-olds, leaving that 1 day for all of those IEP meetings. That means that the teachers are not leaving the classroom when kids are there. So the reason that we have a meeting day for our preschool and pre-K programs is really more to meet the needs of those IEP meetings. There are oftentimes collaborative meetings also for teachers on those days, which is why when Kelly asked about the makeup, we can skip a day here and there and be okay. So that is why, again, the part of your executive summary that speaks to next year is to really analyze whether that's the best use of our time, right? We want to look at, is it better to offer a 5-day program and figure out another way to work the schedule? But for this coming year, we're following the current schedule that Timberlane has adopted for preschool and pre-K, just moving the consistency of the dates.
Okay. So your teacher meetings, because I have a kid that's a teacher, so, you know, her meetings are literally after school. After the school day is done, they break up into their teacher meetings, whatever day of the week, whatever meeting she's in. So your teacher meetings will actually happen during the day on the Monday.
For those preschool pre-K meetings, partly that is because not all of our staff are full-time. We do, to answer your question, we do have staff meetings that are consistent pre-K through 12 that happen twice a month after school.
Right. So, but in school, you know, whether it's a team meeting or those type of things, that would all happen on the Monday.
Yes.
Okay.
Barbara?
Have we asked the parents for any feedback on the schedule change?
To my knowledge, the preschool program has not. Parents were really flexible when we moved to Wednesdays this year. We certainly can ask. I think both Amy Daly and myself, the preschool through 5 coordinator, really thought about it's really between Mondays and Fridays. We have in the past always used Fridays as the meeting day, but when we look at that schedule, oftentimes in the week, kids are getting 3-day weeks because Fridays are no school for preschool and pre-K and Mondays are the holidays. So we're looking at the Tuesday through Friday because it means more time for the students in school. And the neighborhood schools have always functioned Monday through Thursday, but TLC has a split schedule. And so oftentimes we find that when our neighborhoods, which are smaller, we only have one section, when those fill up, parents are faced with a schedule that is different from what they were trying to plan for. So that is why we're trying to just say all the programs will be consistent.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve this change.
I motion that we accept the change to Tuesday through Friday for the pre-K and preschool.
Okay, thank you.
I second.
Steve seconds. Kat, can you take a vote, please?
Bose,
Yes.
Dr. Boyle, Mr. Boyle,
Thank you for the
You
promotion.
got promoted.
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the high school graduation date.
I did have one more question.
Go ahead.
Do we intend for the preschool to be self-funding?
For next year?
Yeah.
No, we have communicated that there will still be tuition.
Well, I mean, does the tuition cover the cost that it costs us, the school district?
I can't answer with data, but that certainly is going to be part of our feasibility study through next year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is setting the date for the high school graduation. You have a summary in your packet that lays out how graduation is going to occur. I don't know as we need to get into the nitty gritty. Mr. Woodworth is here. Are there any questions regarding that date or layout? So you're looking for a motion to approve that, Mr. Woodworth?
Yeah, we have the June 12th date. We'd like to confirm that so we can make sure we're ordering what we need for the right date.
All right, Barbara? Barbara, you may.
Just checking to see if we can get the prom in and all the other pre-graduation events in before that date's easily.
Yes, I know we have the tents and the capability of getting everything done ahead of that date.
All right, thank you. So glad to hear it's going to come back to normal, more or less.
We're trying.
In a tent.
Kristen?
I was just going to make the motion to approve June 12th as the graduation date for the Timberlane High School.
Second.
Okay, can we take a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage,
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Woodworth.
All right, thank you.
And I have designated Kristen to give the speech for the school board since her son is graduating.
I'll second that.
Nice. I'll wait for the movie comes out.
I'm not so sure that's a good idea. What?
I know, well, you know.
I'll do great. Thank you.
Thank
Yep.
you.
All right, the next item on the agenda, and I think this Mr. Dowd, this is the ESSER funding update. It looks like we have received an additional 544,000, or could you speak to that?
Correct. So this is going to be what we'll call ESSER 2 under the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act. I've identified in your memorandum a couple of what the purposes of this grant are: to address learning loss and to prepare schools for reopening, and for testing, repairing, and upgrading projects to improve air quality in buildings. So, and in addition to that, there are other uses that have been suggested to address unique needs of low-income students, purchasing additional technology, expanded drop-off pickup locations, additional parking, traffic signs, mechanical and non-mechanical heating, air conditioning systems, window and door repair, and replacement. So I think it's important to just point out that that is there now. We do have until September 2023 to spend the funds. These are funds that would be ripe for some of the repairs that you spoke about earlier, with the big caveat that we have to comply with the Davis-Bacon Act and related acts, which involve a large amount of time and effort from the business department in terms of tracking and data collection compliance. Involves prevailing wages and a number of other provisions. So it never comes without, money like this never comes without strings attached. If we spent the money for programming, or as we spend Title I funds or IDA funds, we have a system in place to handle and to provide compliance for those types of expenditures. This is a little bit of a different world for us, for the DOE, for a lot of districts in the state. I'm looking forward to some additional guidance coming out on this. And Dr. Farah, as you know, the district can only spend funds that are raised as capital on capital expenditures, and funds that are raised for other purposes as operational. These funds are not really raised by the district; they're from the federal government. So certainly they would be ripe, in my opinion, for spending on capital type projects if there is a need in that area, which there is. Important to note that the funds are coming in a little bit late, let's just say, and we have a process that we need to go through. But I think it's also important to remember that there is no vaccine for our students at this point. Not all of our educators, instructional staff may be receiving their vaccine. So it is I would say, timely attempt by the federal government to try to continue to have our schools continue to operate in the safest manner possible. And I will say that there are a number of projects on here, one of them being additional parking as well. And we don't seem to have as much of a need this year for parking. Mr. Woodworth, he's still on the call, may be able to speak to that. For whatever reason, in years past, we have. I know we've looked at it. I know we've got a geography problem, a geographical problem in terms of trying to add parking, but there are a number of different angles we can look at on this. The reason that this is important is not only the amount of money, but the fact that there's probably going to be an ESSER 3 coming along, which is going to be larger than this. So good on us, but we should start planning. So it's helpful to have some information from Train as to what systems we need to get replaced to be able to get that work underway, and to provide some longer term strategic planning as to how the rest will be used. So some good news with strings.
Always with strings.
Sheila.
So the way I read this, and by the way, thank you, whoever put the summary. The summary was fantastic. I mean, it really spelled everything out. But obviously the HVAC is going to be a #1 priority. However, there were other things that I saw that would our Chromebooks fall under this?
They could.
Okay.
They could.
Would, now here, watch Brian's ears perk up here, Kim, watch this. Would the windows at the high school that surround the courtyard, would that?
So theoretically, yes, Sheila, with the exception that the windows in the courtyard contribute substantially to air exchange in the building at the moment.
Right. I understand that, but we all know they need to be replaced because they're older than dirt.
I'd rather have that all handled by a system, not by inefficiencies in our windows.
But it did say window replacement. So of course, all these little ideas popped up in my head like, ooh, ooh, ooh.
Yeah, and the Jill, so you bring a good point. So window replacements are in there, but it's really in the context of how is this helping to increase your air circulation? In some cases, that might be. Now, I know we've just done a lot of roofs in the district, but if you have a system that we need to replace, or we were putting in a system on a building that had an aging roof, and we needed to replace the roof as part of that HVAC replacement, that roof would be included in that. The big thing here, the big thing to keep in mind is we could not have had, this is the guidance I'm getting from the DOE, we could not have had that expenditure budgeted as of March of last year when the pandemic began.
Perfect. And we didn't have any of this HVAC stuff budgeted.
No,
So
we have a capital improvement plan that may go out a number of years, but the only thing that's budgeted, and even then we don't really budget, we budget an amount, but the amount that we have on the capital improvement plans, 1.4 million, we only budget $1 million for these projects. So really anything in future years, technically not budgeted. So we can have something on our capital plan that we can address now.
Barbara?
So even though I'm on the capital improvement committee, and I'm all for making sure we get our HVAC systems up to date and our efficiency, get a lot of those capital things taken care of. The other big thing here was the learning loss, and I'm hoping that over the next year we'll be able to identify. We'll have some plan to identify what that learning loss is and what remediation we can take, and I would expect some of this fund would go toward that.
Or the next.
It would be a lot easier.
Right.
It would be a lot easier for us to use these funds on those types of expenditures. I don't know exactly what the learning loss remediation is going to be, but I suspect as we're seeing other districts be able to handle it, we're going to get a pretty good idea as to how we'll be able to use these funds to do that.
All right, thank you. I want to interject here. From a pragmatic point of view, you're only looking at about $500,000, and you're telling me that this is the federal regulations that get involved with this could be quite complex. So the biggest bang for your buck is going to be to keep this simple when you're making the expenditures off of this grant. So I don't think you want to go into 10,000 different little items. You want to choose some big ticket items that we don't have funded that are going to improve the district. So that would just be my 2 cents on it. Brian?
Oh, and if this little curveball of prevailing wages, that's why the Commonwealth of Mass, when they do their buildings, they cost twice the price that they want in New Hampshire. So you may have lost half that. So now if you're going to sit back and say, I want to do some HVAC work, and then phase 1 is prevailing wages, and phase 2 might be local tax money, this might not be the good deal you think it is.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it was nice to have. Are you looking for action here? I don't see this as an action.
Need some strategic, some strategic insight from the board that, hey, this is out there and how we're going to use it. Budget buster, by the way, is what has come up in the context of prevailing wage. Brian? So
Sean and Kelly.
Yeah, I mean, Sheila actually brought this on up in regards to the Chromebooks. I was actually going to bring that out when I got discussed, is because can we get Ken, to give us an update for next fall, because with the everything with the pandemic and so forth,
You don't want to get pulled behind again.
Yeah, how far are we going to be behind? I mean, are we going to have to order these now so that we can insure them for August delivery? Those are the things that I want to, try to iron in on. And to Dr. Farah's point, this might be the perfect example to buy all of them out of this, fund, because then it's pretty straight and simple, and we don't have to deal with Brian's concern of prevailing wages.
Mm-hmm. So Kat, could you ask Mr. Henderson, take an action to put Mr. Henderson on the agenda for next time for Chromebooks? Oh, sorry, Kelly, you're muted.
Oh, I just you hadn't called on me yet.
No,
Just a
sorry, I
quick
called on
question.
you and then I forgot.
No
I saw
worries.
you. Okay.
You mentioned a third one of these coming along. Is that like we're crossing our fingers that they will approve that third one, or is it a pretty sure thing that
seems like a pretty sure thing? I think Sheila, you had asked about who had put this memo together. I put together a memo maybe a month ago. We just didn't have enough detail, and so Maria went and took my memo and expanded upon it for this one. This is just coming out now, and I know that ESSER 3 is coming. I've heard double the amount, 2 to 3 times the amount, 2.3 times the amount of what we're currently looking at. I cannot make any guarantees. I don't want to budget or plan around it. I will believe it when I see it. but I'll put it out there. So
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
thanks.
Moving on, the next item on the agenda is administrator renominations. I've already heard from some board members that they have some questions regarding personnel, so I want to move that till later and try to get some of the other business done so we can go into a non-public for a discussion about that. So the next item on the agenda is the retirement notification period. I asked that this be put on the agenda. Typically, retirements need to be notified, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, by January 1 to qualify for a retirement incentive. I'm looking to open this up for another 2 weeks, given some of the uncertainty that we've had around COVID, the fact that we are now vaccinating or not vaccinating, depending on the people, and that we may have staff that are still, you know, at this point, trying to make a determination as to whether they do want to return in the fall. So I was hoping that the board would consider a 2-week opening period for anyone who chooses to avail themselves, that we allow for that early retirement incentive to still prevail, or that they can put in their retirement.
I'll make a motion to extend the retirement incentive until April 15th.
April 15th is our next meeting.
April 15th. That would be the deadline.
I'll second that.
Barbara?
Well, given the retirement incentives are quite large, would this have an impact on the budget?
Well, this is always a non-budgeted item, so we find the money within the current staffing budget.
Okay, so we're not.
I don't think we're going to see.
They reduce our high-priced salaries as school board members to come up with those funds.
Yeah.
Mr. Dowd, what are your thoughts? I don't think we're going to see droves of people, but go ahead.
I don't know that this extension would have a material impact. If it does, we do have some options in terms of maybe bumping some of those costs to the following year. The problem is that, yeah, you do save the money. Like, for example, next year you may bring in a newer teacher or staff member who may make $10,000 less or $15,000 less or $20,000 less. That's out of next year's budget. Normally we pay the retirements out of the current year budget. Sometimes we can push it to the next year so that we tie that retirement incentive that we're paying out to the actual cost savings and salaries. So we can work it out. I don't see it as material. If it gets material, then we'll have a chat. But I'll discuss with the board.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. So we had a motion and a second on that. And if this is approved, can we make sure that, can we take an action item to make sure that the staff is notified of this? There's only a 2-week window.
And it would be retroactive, I would, right? Because you said if it closed in January, if anybody retired between then.
It's not a retroactive thing. It's a percentage.
Sorry,
of
no,
that salary.
right. But the period that closed in January.
Mm-hmm.
And so does that mean that if anybody, because didn't we approve some retirements last meeting? Would they have been
Correct.
eligible for this anyway?
And they did get it.
Okay.
We didn't accept, we have not had a case where we did not honor it from January on, but typically it's not something that we do, but I think given the climate and everything and coronavirus, that it may be helpful to open it up for 2 weeks for people. Okay, Kat, can you take a vote on that motion, please?
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage.
Yes.
Great, thank you. I'm sorry, I do want to go back to the ESSER grant very quickly. I was reading the Carriagetown News and I saw, I think it was Sanborn, that had a public hearing to accept ESSER funds. Do we need to have that, Jeff?
We will, and we will have a public hearing on that. And if we can be provided notification on the ESSER 3, I'd like to have a public hearing on all of the funds received to date to make sure that we can articulate what's coming in and theoretically that how we're going to be spending it. So that's
Okay,
always.
so I thought we already got the ESSER funds, ESSER 2.
We did, we haven't spent them. So we can receive them. We haven't necessarily spent them. So the board has time on this type of grant to have a public hearing. So.
Okay,
at
I
this
just
point-
wanted to confirm that we needed a public hearing because I haven't heard anything about a public
Yeah,
hearing.
I'm thinking you're going to need, a hearing, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, is this you're trying to do two public hearings and just do it in one public hearing?
Correct,
to
yeah. We
minimize the
need
cost?
a public hearing to receive funds, and if it's a number of different, sources.
Okay.
But, at this point, they have taken so long to provide guidance on the ESSER 2, although I know ESSER 3 is coming. This might be a good time to schedule a public hearing on what we've received so far, because it's just taken too long. And we may be into the next fiscal year.
That's what I mean. You're going to cross that fiscal boundary year, and especially with us tidying up everything from SAU 55, and then now that it's better to get everything clean. I do.
Yeah,
agree.
let's take an action item to put a public hearing scheduled as part of the next meeting, at the beginning of the next meeting, Sheila?
But don't we need to, at the public hearing, be able to tell the public what we're spending these funds on?
I don't think so. I think you just have to accept the funds. I mean, we can give them
funds,
a general
or-
idea.
Okay.
I don't
All
think
right.
you have to say explicitly what you're
Okay.
spending, Jeff.
Yeah, we don't have to have a specific budget, but it's always nice for the public to say, hey, you're looking at $500,000. Help me out here. And, the answer is a lot of the stuff that we just went over tonight, mechanical and construction.
Okay. I'm just making sure we didn't have to have specific items.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not a specific budget. No.
All right.
Okay. Moving on then, policies, first read. We have our new policy people here. Amy, are you co-chairing policy, or who's chairing now? Did you?
I don't think that has been decided. I think Steve and I were going to discuss that.
All right, so you did a first read on these 10, 11 policies tonight? Or we're approving a first read on these?
I believe that's the stuff that we did last time.
Yeah, that was
Jen
last
and I.
time. So at the last policy, so I'm looking for a motion to approve the following policies: CE, BIB, BHE, BIE, BJ, BK, BKA, CA, CB, CBG, CCA for a first read.
So moved.
Repeat all those, Sheila.
No way. I got to the first. I started writing them down. You went too fast, and I threw the pen down.
Okay, it's in the packet. Is there a second on that motion?
A second.
Any discussion?
Just to refresh my memory, so the first read, we can take these home, take a look at them, and then if we have some comments, would we contact the policy people directly?
Well, no, they've already gone to policy. Policy has already approved them and is sending them to the board for our approval. If you have questions, the questions get raised at the board meeting.
Or if there's a problem at the second read, we would send it back to policy if we felt that there was something wrong. Or
Okay,
something that
I just
we
had
didn't like.
questions and I wasn't quite sure what something meant. I'm trying to reduce the amount of back and forth.
So do you have questions on the policy?
Well, there's like lots of pages of them and I haven't gotten through all of them this evening.
Oh, okay. So yes, at the second read, you can certainly ask questions, and if there's something that the board has concerns about, many times we send it back to policy.
Okay.
Or we
I
hold
think
it.
what she's asking, Kim, is that is there somebody she can email if she's got a question so that she doesn't have to tie up the board meeting next time around?
Okay. I would start with Amy and Steven, and if they can't answer it, my guess is whoever the administrator is. Who's the lead administrator on policy now? Is it Dr. Cochran or Sandy? Jeff? Then go to Jeff.
Yeah, and it's important to note that that the two board members who had previously sat on that committee are no longer on the board.
Are gone. So you would probably want to go right to Jeff on these, because the two new board members were not involved in this.
Yeah, I don't anticipate any big problems, but I kind of wanted to make this procedure clear for, myself and for the other newbies.
Sure.
Thank you. And Barbara, it may make more sense just to have a conversation on some of them, because it does go back and forth if there are questions. So I'm more than happy to have a discussion that doesn't occupy the whole board meeting.
I would also add that if any board member finds anything in any of these policies that have been overlooked, if we do a second read and then, later on you find something that you want to bring back to the board's attention, by all means, I think it's encouraged that you bring it back to the table and we all discuss it. And if need be, we can unwind that and send it back to the policy to be addressed. So I wouldn't look at any of these policies as finalized and they're never going to be touched again. I mean, we're updating them and we as a board have that authority to do it, due to the outlines that we set forth of proper notice and so forth.
Thanks.
Okay, so Kat, could you take a roll call vote to accept these 11 policies as a first read?
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage.
Yes.
Great, thank you. The next item on the agenda is committee assignments. Board members, you received the list of what I had for committee assignments. I have it in front of me on my own screen here. We need a Sandown rep for the capital improvement plan.
I'm happy to. Oh, good, Sheila. Good.
So Sheila, are you saying you'll do it?
I will do it. I only have one that I requested,
Okay.
so I will do that.
All right.
Hit Sheila and be the new guy, but thank you for doing that.
Barbara's check registers, but if somebody wants to be the alternate or the second, you're welcome to jump on.
I'm not even sure what check registers does, unless it's what I've been doing all last year.
What you've been doing pretty much is
Exactly what you've been doing.
Doing a deep dive. Yeah.
Just validating how good of a job you've been doing.
Okay. All right.
Barbara, it actually involves coming into the office now that you can come in and actually reviewing and looking at the detail which you've been asking about. So
No, I'm not going anywhere. Much as I'd like to see you in person.
that's what those typically have been, but you do a very good job at it already. So
Okay, so I think all the committees are staffed, but certainly if people want to get on these as alternates, you're certainly welcome to do that. But everybody has this list, so you'll be notified when those committees will be meeting. So policy, curriculum, and normally what happens is those committees will elect one of the board members as a co-chair. All right, sorry, I'm gonna get back to seeing people here.
Kim, if I may just remind that we do have a committee, I believe a safety committee meeting on April 7th.
Okay, and who is on safety? Oh, that's
Steve and Kristen. It's no longer me or Brian, my backup.
Okay.
11 o'clock, right, Jeff?
Sorry?
11 o'clock by Zoom. You're going to send out a link for us?
Correct. Yep. Just
Great.
wanted to make sure I knew who was on the committee first.
Yeah, Stephen and
Kim, I would also add, sorry, that we have a curriculum and assessment committee meeting next Tuesday at 4. So we will make sure that those individuals receive the link. So.
Okay, great. The next thing on the agenda, we don't usually do action on committee assignments. I think we can come to some agreement on it. The next thing on the agenda is the school board goals. I'm just trying to think where we are. I guess those goals should have been completed. So every year for new people, we develop school board goals. Can somebody share the screen with these on it? Does anybody have this? I mean, I have it on my screen, but
I can do it. Just give me 1 second to pull it up. Oh,
Jeff's got it. Okay. All right. So I just want to go over these quickly. I'm not going to get into a discussion today about goals for this coming year, but if people could send me goals, I think it'll go much quicker if we draft a document. And then we should be in person at the next meeting, and then we can have a discussion. So in terms of goals, we have developed a new organizational structure for SAU 106. We are continuing to support, advance the work of the district, explore the development. Some of these have, I don't think that we've achieved these due to COVID, but this is something that we can take a look at as we move forward. So these were the goals for last year.
Right.
And I think they did change, but I think, overall, I think the board has made progress in terms of moving the district forward. We are approaching the withdrawal. We are hiring up for the new withdrawal, for the new SAU. We are still looking at full day kindergarten. Our budget, I think, is kind of a little out of whack because of the COVID requirements. And I know audits are being worked on. Hopefully by the time we leave SAU 55, all the audits will be complete and up to date. And in terms of facilities, obviously our facilities its bent has changed towards HVAC. So we are putting quite a bit into facilities. And I know the Energy Committee has done a lot. We still are looking at creating a proposal for solar engineering on district buildings. So I would certainly say that we want to keep that. So if people could send me their goals, and I'll put it together in a draft, and then we can speak to it next. We can work on it next time.
Okay.
Because the school board goals, for those that are new or even not, are what the superintendent is going to use to inform his goals for the upcoming year. So it's important that, maybe we even have a workshop at some point with the superintendent to just discuss goals and how we're moving forward in the new SAU. Once we can get to a point where we can all meet together, that would be nice. All right, so that's the last action item. We'll move on to the administrator's report and then the personnel report. Yeah, what? Sorry.
On the goals, the no bullying was part of the goals last year. And is there any way we could get an update on how that's been going this year?
Oh, Sheila, why are you shaking your head no?
At a future meeting.
Why am I shaking my head no?
Yeah.
Because I don't believe, well, first we haven't had, we've had half the kids in.
Yeah.
And the person that we had spearheading this has not been in the office at all. So I'm not sure who is taking it.
Tell it like it is, where are we and what?
Okay, yeah, let's take an action item on where are we with the no bullying initiative? Was that what it was?
Right.
I remember. Yeah, let's see. It may or may not appear on the agenda, but I will speak to the superintendent, kind of see where we're at on that. It's a
You get what I'm
valid
saying, though,
question.
Kim? It's kind of like,
I understand what you're saying, but we don't want to let the initiative drop. So it's
no.
good to bring it to the forefront and see what happened, if anything, and if we need to put some more resources towards it.
Thank you.
Okay. Where was I? Committee. So moving on to the administrator's report then. Dr. Cochran?
3 items. The first, for new school board members, we get an estimate at the start of the budget year of what our guaranteed maximum rate will be for healthcare. We refer to it as a GMR. And our GMR was 4.9% increase. And we actually came in with an increase of only 1.9%. That would represent about a $300,000 differential. No action is taken, it's just an informational item. The second item in the report is that the 2021-2022 voted budget is in the board packet. No action is needed on that as well. And the third topic is donations. We've scheduled a public hearing for the next board meeting to accept a donation of face masks valued at about $15,000. And we're also looking into a hand sanitizer donation opportunity. We'll have more on this later. No action is needed on this tonight.
Okay, great, thank you. And then the next item on the agenda is the personnel report.
Yes, we have 2 resignations, both professional. Allison Norman, social worker from Pollard. I'd ask the board to take a vote to accept the resignation.
Could we do both? Could we do both, Brian, just
Well, we
because
can.
it's quicker?
The second is Michelle Desmond, art teacher at Timberland Regional Middle School. So 2 resignations.
I'll make a motion to accept the resignations of Allison Norman and Michelle Desmond.
Second.
Okay. Kat, could you take a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage.
Yes.
Great, thank you. And there's one renomination.
Yes, Stephanie Pomcato, behavior specialist district-wide.
I'll make a motion to accept the renomination of Stephanie Pomcato.
Second.
Kat, could you take a roll call vote on that, please?
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage.
Yes, sorry about that. Can't get it to click off mute, so.
All right. So we're still planning to go into a non-public. The next item is committee reports and reports of the school board. I know policy committee met. Did somebody want to chime in there? Jeff?
Yeah, being that we have 2 brand new school board members, we have moved a couple policies forward, moved a couple policies forward, which you'll see at your next meeting, as recommended as repealed. And it's important to note that the big update that we're going to see coming up is an update from the NHSBA, who helps us out with, helps all districts out with policies and uniformity across the district. We have had a couple laws that have been updated and revised, and so it's around the JICD area, the student discipline area. So what you're going to see coming up as a preview are a couple of policies that are recommended for repeal, with those terms consolidated into the main policy itself. Cleaned up quite a bit, and policy committee went through some of those tonight, and some you'll see come through this meeting and probably some next month as well. So that's the big update.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other committee updates?
Yeah.
Brian?
Well, we had a budget committee meeting last week. It was a reorg meeting. And one of the topics of discussion came up that I suggested and the budget committee agreed with, is that I think the school board and the budget committee should go back to a joint, we used to do this historically, have a joint meeting sometime in, I think it was around November is what we talked about, Jeff, if my recollection serves me right. So obviously, it's not an action item here as we are here April 1st. So we have plenty of time to work something out with the budget committee. And that was, like, I would say, one of the big thing I think they came out of that meeting. Jeff, can you think of anything else that?
I think that was it.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? I know there's an energy committee meeting coming up next Wednesday, I think.
Yep.
Yep, great. All right.
Kim, it's not a committee report, but I just want to remind that Project Hope at the high school was supposed to be a couple weeks ago, and it's been rescheduled, and it's going to be on Sunday, April 11th. It will be a virtual event, and the kids are all looking for support. So anyone that's free, this is before our next meeting. So I just wanted to remind everyone, the link is on the high school website, but Project Hope will be Sunday, April 11th.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything else before we go into non-public session? Sheila?
Other business? I don't know even who to ask for this, but can we get these committees updated on the websites? the
Yeah,
committee
Kat,
members.
Kat, can you
board
take that as an
members.
action item now that we know who's on the committee? We'll get them updated.
Because some of them are pretty old, like older, even
Okay.
before last year. So if we can get all that updated, that'd be great.
Okay, great. Anything else before we move to a non-public? I would anticipate we'll come out of this non-public back into public session and maybe take an action item. Also, there's Nancy Losell coming into this session. So I'm looking for a motion to enter a non-public session under 91A:3, paragraph 2, section C.
So moved.
Sheila makes the motion, Sean seconds. Kat, can you take a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage.
Yes, and Kim, can Kaylee, we don't need Kaylee or want Kaylee.
Yeah, no, I think you're all set, Kaylee. If we do something publicly, it will be very quick. Thank you for coming and have a good.
Not that we don't want Kaylee, we just don't
Yeah,
want
well, I
Kaylee
didn't
to
mean
stay
that
up
that way.
unnecessarily.
I don't want Kaylee to wait around for us is my
Right, no, I agree.
in there, so.
No. Thank you, Kaylee.
Thank you
Okay.
guys. Have a great night.
You
We
too.
need a vote. What do we vote?
I thought we got through, did we get through the vote?
Oh, I'm last, so yeah, that's.
Okay, all right. So you've got to get out of this meeting and go into the other meeting.
Bye.
To seal the minutes.
Second.
Okay, Kat, can you take a roll call vote?
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage.
Yes.
Okay, so we have one last item on the agenda. That's to approve the administrator renomination list. Is there a motion on that?
I'll motion to approve the administrator renomination list.
A second.
The motion in a second. Kat, can you take a roll call on that, please?
Ms. Bose,
Yes.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mr. Finnegan,
Yes.
Ms. Gentile,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage.
Yes.
Okay, great. Anything else before we adjourn?
No.
Okay, great. Thank you. And we'll adjourn for the night.
Good night. Happy Easter.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Happy Easter.
Thank you.